So let's bring it on in here. This is the Stoney Road WoW chat. Something new, something I'm trying to bring together. Just a chill little forum for me to talk about stuff, and we'll kind of ramble a little bit there. So this will be kind of wonky at first, but I'll get the hang of it here. But yeah, this first one here, I like to talk about basically Legion, as we're going into BFA, just for me to kind of myself wind down and discuss what all went down, really. Because I'm sure for a lot of people it was an important expansion. And for most, I feel it was a relatively good expansion, but coming into it, is for me and for others, I'm sure, is Blizzard's last chance to keep them in the game. You know, it's those after Warlords and a lot of other different things leading up to the release of Legion. The game was in a bad spot, so this was their moment to shine, and I like to talk about basically what all went out down there. I was able to switch over to a new server and try a more high populated place. I had a friend over on Sargeras, so I figured give it a shot. And so luckily going into Legion, I had a lot of people to work with and group up, and it was a relatively more productive and active experience than other expansions as my server started to die. But yeah, basically when we had the release of Legion, it started out, we had the pre-invasion events, which were just awesome. I mean, seeing all these people fly together, 40, 60 people all crashing together to try to find these little invasion areas. It was a lot of fun. I'm sure most people agreed. And then we got the introductory into Legion going through the Broken Shore event. And the Broken Shore event for a beginning of an expansion was all right. I mean, it was really cool in the fact that you were invading and you were raiding in. I mean, you know what? Scratch that. It was pretty good actually overall, because I forgot about too. You got some of the events in Stormwind. So as long as you get moving around a lot, I'm pretty cool about that. You know, it seems like you're moving around the world trying to really get some stuff done. It makes it more exciting, more engaging. That's a good way to start an expansion. So yeah, it's pretty good. And then of course the cool part is when you land on the Broken Shore, depending on your faction, whatever, you landed on a different side, but you had your faction leaders there. You know, you had Thrall and Vol'jin and Sylvanas, or if you had, well, we were looking for Thrall, weren't we? I can't remember. And then you had on the Alliance side, you know, Gin and you know, Varian and whatever. So it was cool. And you marched through, you tried to find Tyrion. That was the only one kind of lame thing. It was like, dude, come on, am I gonna let Tyrion just go out like this? And he didn't die there, but we learned that, you know, through the Paladin Order Hall stuff, that there was he eventually did go, of course. But then we lost Varian and Vol'jin. Vol'jin went out. His ending was not so great. He's always been my favorite dude. I was Horde before Alliance for a long time, and Trolls in my heart. And Vol'jin was what's up. So to see him go like that was not so hot. But Varian went out like a fucking beast. It was very cool. So right off the bat, I enjoyed the Broken Shore intro. They send you back to Dalaran, and you do your opening Order Hall stuff. They send you to the Order Hall, and that was, man, I'm sure there's like a lot of people waited a long time to have that class distinction, which was in Order Halls. I don't know if it's in everybody. I had about like 10 110s, so I got majority of them done, but for the most part they all seemed pretty legit, some more than others. Of course the Order Halls themselves are debatable as far as your aesthetic appeals and whatever, but as far as the storylines and what they were trying to achieve with the Order Halls, I really liked it. I hated how it kind of dwindled on later in the expansion. It wasn't as important, it felt. But anyways, you go through that, and then you get your artifact quest line, and which that was really cool when I first did it. And then, you know, when you do it on a couple other characters, you realize the strengths and weaknesses in some of the quests. And then, of course, some are just pretty repeatable. But, of course, pretty stoked to get that. I had my DK first, and to have the Shards of Frostmourne was pretty legit. That one I actually gave a shit about. There was a couple artifacts, you know, I could care less about. But there's a few I did, and I was excited to get those and get out in the battle and start using them. But yeah, I had that. And then the leveling experience was pretty solid. I liked the scaling that they implemented. Didn't really matter the first time around, but because you just kind of just pick your zones and you go through it, you don't know why you do what you do. But, you know, having an alt or something like that's pretty cool, because then it made it a little bit different. But then after like 10 alts, you don't care. But leveling, I mean, visually, like here I'm walking from Surmar to Azuna. I mean, it's gorgeous. The art team kicks it up every time. It's one of the things that keeps me in the game is the world and the art in it. And quest lines through leveling, like Azuna, High Mountain, I really like those two, probably the best. I really like the Prince Ferana's line. I like that you got a lot of backstory from that, a lot of extra history. High Mountain was cool because it was just a really cool zone. I liked that the storyline was one of the more cohesive ones, because we're just all trying to unite the tribes and appoint this chick and get going. I really like Stormheim, but obviously it got butchered a little bit, and the story just didn't flow as well. But Val'sharah, I would say I like the area the most, at the first half I liked the quest, and then the second half I get tired of everybody we're killing everybody. I get it. Everybody's dying. I get it. And then you have to deal with Malfurion with whiny ass and stuff, and it is what it is. But you get max level, you start moving on, you get in dungeons, you start your Balance of Power quest line. It has a very good pace in the beginning. Even starting out, I didn't get into doing too many dungeons before I started moving into raiding. But, you know, starting out in the early Mythic Pluses were a lot of fun. I really loved how they brought that in. Mythic Plus in itself is, I know not many people can argue that it was a bad idea. And especially once you have the people, you know, I've kind of lost my group of people, but when you have those group of people, you can just kind of run in and do these dungeons like that. That's what originally brought me into WoW, especially like leveling back in the day in Classic and stuff. So, a lot of the Arcway, I like that one. I liked a lot of the ones you unlocked later with the Surmar quest line. I'm trying to think. Halls of Valor was really cool for me. I liked it as it was a long one, but it should have been a short one. But it was just aesthetically beautiful. I like the overall feel and combat going through it. I really like Maw and stuff too, but of course that AP grind was pretty ridiculous, so Maw got pretty old pretty quick. And what would be my favorite though that they brought in? I guess just to redo Akira, honestly. Let's go with that. I mean, as far as the ones they brought in right away, Black Rookhold, what I say is a strong second. That was dark, dungeony, had a very different WoW feel, all about it. Anyways, real quick, going through, you moved from, you know, doing those things, you went to raid Emerald Nightmare, which definitely seemed like a beginner raid, so much that I actually did mythic raiding in that one, and it was a lot of fun. I think, you know, overall, again, I just got tired with Malfurion, and that kind of butchered it for me. But Ursoc, I loved the models in the fight. I like going through the different portals. I loved Il'gynoth and the Whisper stuff. It was about, I would say, a 7 out of 10 for me on that one. But yeah, moving past that though too, you're still working with rating that, doing dungeons, doing mythic pluses, and then Surmar was still relevant. And wow, masterpiece what Surmar was. Just the whole zone, of course, beautiful. The storyline's really cool, helping her come out from the woods to help her eventually reclaim her space. And it was just really rad, especially once you start getting into the city. You had a very cool Assassin's Creed vibe, all that type of stuff. Just different ways, different type of storytelling that Blizzard hasn't really done before. And it was definitely appreciated, especially with the payoff of going into Nighthold and finalizing that storyline. And that brings me to Nighthold. That was definitely a top tier raid instance, in my opinion, as far as what Blizzard has brought in. And it was definitely difficult, definitely in the mythic areas. Didn't get too far mythic on that one, but heroic was because we got pretty burnt out on heroic Gul'dan for a bit. A lot of changing around in the guild, roster wise. It was just a thing, but I kicked ass. Frost DKs were so OP, and Nighthold, I had a lot of fun. It was so beautiful in there. Star Augur, Croesus, probably one of my favorite fights for sure. I really liked, was it Trilliax? The guy with the fucking the crazy robot dude with that, had two guys fighting in him and stuff, and he's throwing cakes. I mean, come on, that fight was amazing. And Gul'dan was just a solid end boss. And at the end of it, and you completed your balance of power quest line, and you got the skins. It was definitely a good start to the expansion to go through all that leveling and have content after another that was relatively satisfying. Of course, Emerald Nightmare was not as satisfying for most, but it wasn't really the first tier rating. You know, if you bring in Nighthold as the first tier rating, bam, they nailed it. Following back up though, we go into the next patch, which was Tomb of Argus patch. And we head back to the Broken Shore. This patch, of course, is notoriously hated for its time gaining, where once they used it in Surmar and it worked out for them. It wasn't as bad. But these quests that they gave in the Broken Shore was just not appealing and engaging at all. The only reason you did them is because you wanted to get your awesome class mount at the end, which was great. Class mounts, for the most part, they did a really great job. Some of them not so great, but whatever. You got 12 classes. There's a lot going on. I'm not gonna hate too long on that. And of course, all that led up to eventually, what was it? They got to Cathedral of Nightmare, and we had to go through that, which of course in the beginning was pretty punishing, especially on a mythic level. And then they wound up tuning it down and doing all that good stuff. But it's a pretty cool dungeon. I like the appeal and stacks, but the thing is, as soon as you left from that and you went to the actual Tomb of Sargeras raid, it kind of burned it for you because it was like the same thing as the dungeon in a way. And anyways, it just was not different enough. And especially in Tomb of Sargeras, just the green, I mean, it was, I guess, a bad time. Just a lot of right ideas at the wrong time. I don't know what it was, but of course it was extremely difficult for people. Glad I skipped that. I actually skipped out on raiding Tomb of Sargeras, that patch. I took some time off for that. I'm glad, because from what I hear, especially Fallen Avatar, I really did enjoy Maiden. Maiden was actually a lot of fun. I mean, I did it on normal and stuff, but it was not my favorite instance by far, and I can see why a lot of people were ready to get the fuck out of there, even though they couldn't, because they were still grinding that to almost basically until Taurus came out. I mean, they had the the PTR, they had in Taurus already testing by the time that the dungeon was out, so it was strenuous. Anyways, moving on from that terrible patch, we had leading into 7.3 was the launching of Vindicar into Argus, because we knocked out Kill Jaden. Really awesome in cinematic when we did. Loved the whole Velen interaction, and then I was gonna say Kill Jaden. Illidan going all crazy, ripping up that hole. So we had a little spot to send our newly built Vindicar out to Argus. And going to Argus, of course, was bam. Thank you, Blizzard. You kind of fucked us here in you kind of fucked us in 7.2, with Tomb of Argus, but here, we had this new skyboxes, these new art assets, these really hard encounters right at the bat. If you had like a lower item level at the time, like barely 900 or something like that, with a lot of people were pretty close to that, but even then at 900 you were getting your ass beat by these mobs because they were just so many of them and they just pack up, and it was quite the adventure. But it was really cool. I enjoyed the unlocking process of Argus and going through the storyline. I enjoyed a lot of the backstory stuff and cinematics. There's a lot of cool cinematic storytelling that they brought into that. And things I didn't really care about, of course, were another like Crucible, which was just a pain for raiders, which again, I wasn't raiding too much. I just did heroic raiding. So I just, whatever I got, it's fine. And the Seat of the Triumphant. And hold on a second, I'm going to pause right here because I am neurotic and I'm curious if I'm still recording. I am. Okay, now we can get back to it. I'm sorry. It's one of those things that hit me. I'm like, motherfucker. I've been talking a lot. If I don't got this, I'm going to be upset. But anyways, trying to wrap this up here. Seat of Triumphant was a pretty cool dungeon. It just flowed pretty well into the story, and we weren't in Antora, so when we went into the raid, it wasn't like, oh, it's like the dungeon again, It was kind of a nice blend between the two. And then I got the trinkets were cool. I liked the scaling with the trinket, but of course the way it dropped, the way it kind of really the mechanics behind it, it was really underwhelming. But I loved getting the gold Vindicar at the end of the storyline too, and all my alts. That was like at least one thing I had to do is get all my alts, at least have the gold Vindicar, and that was a satisfaction in itself, I guess. But also, let's talk about the raid itself. Really cool. I mean, a lot of people would agree. It definitely was a nice transition from the not difficult. I would say difficulty in a way that like it forced like individual players. Like if you made a mistake, you were done for type of stuff. Whereas Antor's was a little forgiving in certain ways. And then certain bosses, of course, push that. But what I liked about a lot of it, with the bosses, were the visuals were all amazing. Every boss felt a little bit different, and you felt the progression. You felt like that raid feel as you were going and moving from place to place, trying to get something accomplished. And of course, Agrimar at the end, his room was amazing. And the whole Argus Unmaker cinematics and doing that fight was really cool. And there was a lot of stuff that we could see in between the lines with the Titans, and even in Argus itself with Zero, we were learning more that the light wasn't all what it was shaped up to be. We learned a little more about Velen and his people. I mean, overall, it was a way more cohesive storytelling process in 7.3 compared to 7.2. And ultimately left it in a very good place, I would say. Even introducing the allied races, for the expansion, constantly having really good content. No, I wouldn't say really good, constantly having content at least to do on a good schedule. And then going, starting at a good note and ending at a relatively good note. And then introducing something different like allied races, which to speak about those real quick, I'm still curious on how long term it's going to work out for us, but in the short term, I really like it. And I don't care about most of the races actually they brought in. I'm more curious about the ones they're going to bring in, like definitely Zandalari Trolls, Black Iron Dwarves. But Void Elves I was pretty stoked for. That was one I looked to pick up on my mage. And then I want to do it on my monk too, actually, because Jesus, all the teleportations. So much fun. But yeah, I liked the Void Elves. I liked the storyline, even though it seemed it came out of nowhere. People thought they were just kind of thrown in, and I'm sure it was. But I really, for some reason, appealed to it. I liked it. I've always liked the Blood Elves too before with their models. I like a lot of races though, so I'm not biased really in that standpoint. It's like Blood Elf Master Race, of course, but no, there's more to it than that. But I really like High Mountain Tauren. High Mountain Tauren. Their racials are super rad, and the tribal tattoos and the bigger horns, you know, they just don't seem that much different from normal Tauren for me, I guess. But whatever. Lightforged Draenei, especially, don't seem anything different. I have no attachment to that at all. And the Nightborn, I like them as a race and everything. They just look a little goofy to me, I guess. They look like just really skinny, just, I don't know. Anyways, so all that wound up, you know, especially when we saw with the cinematic after Argus, of course, Sargeras stabs the world, and we go to the wound of Sylvis, and that's leading us into BFA. And again, going into BFA, we have a lot of questions, a lot of other things, how it may unfold, and how even systems may work. It's kind of a weird expansion going into, but the hype around it is super big. So that's kind of like the timeline that I wanted to discuss about how Legion worked out, and especially for me. A couple systems things I wanted to really kind of mention about it was, you know, the artifacts when we got them. The trees seemed super appealing. People were super stoked about them, but of course it wound up not being much of anything in the end, other than just something you filled up and then arbitrary mechanics thrown onto it later to where you had a reason to keep powering it. And in the power acquisition too itself became very arduous and very taxing for a lot of people that actually gave a shit. But I liked the way that they provided a lot of ways for you to try. You know, you didn't have to get just through dungeons. You didn't have to do just one thing to level your weapon. Unfortunately, it's just when you can do everything, you want to do everything, and it just, I don't know. I guess I'm fine with it. Honestly, at the end, I was fine with it. The power acquisition stuff, people want to bitch about it, but I found my nice little happy even flow with it, and I was cool with it. The quests, like I spoke about before, they're pretty cool, but, you know, like I said, you find a couple cookie cutter ones, and after you do a few ults, it is what it is. And appearances wise, I have to say they nailed it. They nailed it on appearances. There were so many. I have, you know, like I said, I have a lot of ults, and there was a lot of appearances I tried to pick up through across the classes, even with the Mage Tower. I did like 8 or 10 Mage Towers just for, you know, these stupid little skins they brought on, those stupid little, you know, artifacts. But they did a good job with that. I'm not mad at it for that. So legendaries, pretty much gave a shit about them from the beginning. When I heard, you know, when they first were talking about them and how they were trying to make them like the old world epic feeling, because I remember being in Classic, being in Tenaris, and having these epic bracers drop and just losing my shit. And losing my shit afterwards when I realized that they were male and I was a rogue, but I could sell them. And just the fact that shit happened blew my mind. But that is not the same thing that will happen with these legendaries. And what I really did enjoy was just the systems, the mechanics that they brought in, and the rotations, that the differential rotations you could build. You know, I liked having Kil'jaeden's Wish, you know, when I was going into AoE stuff, and then Cold Heart, you know, I like just being able to switch certain things like that out. So that was cool. And the way you got them, I hated it, for sure. I mean, acquisition on the legendaries were garbage. Needless to say, garbage. Gearing, based off legendaries, a lot of your gearing was 2 sets. When you're merging in from one other raid instance to another, the old 2 sets going into 2 new sets with the new legendaries, and then you had, it was just so much stuff going on. The trinkets were so big, and then especially with scaling and Mythic Plus, there was it was awesome. It's awesome because you have so many different ways to really gear, but really you kind of don't, and it just becomes a burden at some point. So the gearing was definitely one of the weakest, especially it not affecting PvP, even like PvP templates and stuff. Crafting gear, the way you got them, like through raid. Like I never cared too much about the gear I got through raids, because especially as a heroic raider, I knew it was going to, whatever I got was going to be enough, and I'll just keep going through. Legendaries basically take care of everything for you. But appearance-wise, though, I would say gear looked really good this season. They picked it up, especially with, I loved it with my Death Knight, the Warriors, a lot of the plate set stuff was brilliant. But yeah, PvP for me, this was probably what I did probably more than anything, even though it was just mostly casual PvP. I enjoyed, I guess, the template stuff on alt level, but then it made it really hard for me on the honor talents. So it is what it is. But it was nice to some degree knowing I could just jump in with the character and do relatively okay. Not get blown up, whatever. But I missed old way gear. I'm glad they're bringing it back. So that is what that is. But PvP for me, this expansion was really cool. I think is one of the best as far as like balance and variation, especially on the arena tournament side. Like, seeing that stuff streamed on Twitch, seeing people like Mez and Sidu, and then seeing the EU players, seeing like Swapsy, seeing all, Bolta, like just fucking Blizzo, fucking all these great people still doing it, still pushing the game to a certain level, and then them raising the price pool, price rewards, having more tournaments. It was just, it was cool. I dig it. I'm looking forward to however, the BFA changes they've done with the war mode, the world PvP so far has been really, I'm looking forward to PvP and BFA for sure. So, pretty much not much left to say. I have a bunch left to say about it. It's getting at 30 minutes here, and I don't want to take up too much time. A couple quick points of my alts leveling for them was really cool. I say that a lot, but it's just, again, it was cool because it wasn't too much of a grind. Everything flowed, the questing and stuff really well. The Legion invasions really helped out. Again, the only thing was shitty about doing this expansion was the honor talents. And, towards the end, at the beginning, of course, the AP on your artifact weapons were really annoying, but once we got 7.2, having alts was nothing. Gameplay, I would say I really enjoyed the overall just move, look, and feel of the game. I enjoy the fast pace. Maybe it could be a tad bit slower, I don't know, but I enjoy moving around, flying around, just smashing buttons, a bunch of fireworks, everything looking cool. I didn't like how the social I still have a tough time being social in the game. It just isn't what it used to be for me, I guess. And the people, as far as how I used to interact with people, time, I guess. But I still enjoyed my solo play, and I had fair amount. Like I said, I raided. I did some dungeon. I had a dungeon group in the beginning of the expansion, but I definitely did a lot more solo play, and it wasn't terrible, this expansion, I'd say. And last point for me to make really is just the lore. Always a point of contingency, but I feel they're definitely trying to take it in new areas. We'll see where our BFA goes. We definitely have seen some craziness go on there, but man, they have packed a lot. And they said they would, at the beginning of the expansion, we're like, holy shit, it's going to be all these people in here. How are they going to pull it off? You got Illidan, you got Kill Jaden back, you got Sargeras. It's just whoa, but they pulled it off, lore wise. A couple little areas here and there, of course, we can bitch about. I wouldn't try to think off the top of my head, Ilden stuff, obviously, his questioning with this the light stuff. But man, I think it's all going to work out. I think we're going to see something different. I think we're going to see a different story told. And I look forward to how they're shaping the world and continue to do it. I played on beta a little bit, and even what they do in the cities, take the art that they do here and they just throw it in those little cities and have NPCs act a little differently, move differently. The AI that they'll bring in with the NPCs. I think it's a good time. I think it's a good time for WoW. So, in short, I wanted to start this series, make a little video. This went on pretty long, but they're kind of podcasty feel in a way that I just kind of want to ramble and talk about, these things in the game. Probably do like these type of things once a week. Try to do them on the resets, and maybe I'll put a video in between them here and there about something. But for the most part, I believe this is basically how I'm going to do it. My little format of just walking around, seeing the world and talking about stuff in the world of Warcraft. But if you enjoyed it, hit subscribe and like or comment, and I hope to see you again. Bye.